Welcome to Annamalai University, Directorate of Distance Education, Management Wing, offering MBA programs. We are going to see Managerial Economics as a course common to all MBA programs. The resources for the Managerial Economics course are drawn from textbooks and Harvard Business Publishing online tutorial and simulation games. The online simulation game, which is the core of Managerial Economics, is about how do you price it and to make profits. What is the relationship between pricing a product and making profit? When you price the product, customer would show interest and make purchase. However, the change in price would reflect quantity consumption by the customer. Simultaneously, the supplier also will behave in a different way. When the price is low in the market, customer would like to buy more, whereas the supplier will not be interested to supply more. So from that perspective, bringing customer and supplier in the market, a buyer and seller in the market to make profit, it's a beautiful exercise and theories, concepts which we will be learning in Managerial Economics as part of the course for MBA program. The lesson plan goes like this, with the market structure game and pricing profit game. The lesson plan as such comprises of learning objectives and course outcome, and the syllabus, which is comprising of 6 units dealing with topics of Managerial Economics. And also we bring in the simulation and tutorial for your benefit of learning. The first learning objective is to learn economic theories and concepts. When we say economic theories, there are principles of economics, or I would say principles of Managerial Economics. So the change in pattern of bringing product to the market and pricing the product can follow the different theories, starting with incremental theory, EQ marginal theory, opportunity cost theory, discount theory, and risk and uncertainty theory. So these are basic theories of Managerial Economics, or we term it as principles of Managerial Economics, which is taking care of how each one of the principle is accommodated in taking decisions in business. So the first lesson, the learning objective, is focused on economic theories and concepts. And the second learning objective is to impart economic analytical skills, how you take the data, price and quantity of the product or the factors of production, and how the customer is willing to pay price for the product, and how do we make revenue, and how do we finally achieve profit. So from all this perspective, the key is analytics, taking care of the economic principles into account. How do we analyze the market data and take decisions? So that is the second learning objective. The third learning objective is to acquire knowledge to become business entrepreneur. So when you commence the business with all types of risk and uncertainty, you are termed as entrepreneur, and the entrepreneur is to take decisions in the market from the perspective of the product formulations or product variations, and how these pricing of these products in place of market, in place of competitors, how do we play and how do you overcome all these challenges in the market. That is the third learning objective. And the course outcomes are following. First course outcome is making managerial decisions using economic theories and concepts. As I told you, how the incremental principle applies. Applying the incremental principle, whether you increase the revenue or increase the cost. While increasing the cost, what will happen to the increase in revenue. So how these changes will be handled, whether this incremental will give benefit to the business or not. So such decision has to be made. Similarly, opportunity cost, the foregone opportunity, and among the available opportunities, which opportunity a person or a consumer is likely to use, or a buyer or a seller is likely to follow. So in all that cases you need to take decisions. Similarly, UQ marginal principles you apply and you make a decision for marginal utility for a given product, whether it is equal with the other product, marginal utility and the price of the product. So accordingly you compare EQ marginal and take decisions on that. Similarly, you have discounting principle and apply the decision. So today you have 100 rupees worth, but you borrow money from the bank at a rate of 5% or 10% interest rate. So the money that you have own it may be 100 rupees, but bearing the interest rate it would be 95 rupees only, because there is an interest component attached with it. So how do you apply this discount principle and make decisions? And also you apply the risk and uncertainty. How much, the more the risk, the more return. So similarly, uncertainty also will prevail. The market conditions may not be favorable or may be favorable. It depends. It's not in the hands of the marketeer, but in the hands of the environment. So how do you make decisions on that? So the next course outcome is analyzing the internal and external economic environment and challenges of the organizational success. As I told you, how do you take risk and uncertainty decisions, and how the economic environment can be managed wisely. For example, inflation and deflation, depreciation of machineries, and the effect, a component attached internally and the component attached externally. How much foreign reserves that we have, what is our national GDP and national income, and how do we manage and all that. Internally, how do you manage the depreciation of the machine and the other related aspects of the resources that is available in the inventory and the raw material resources, all that. How do we manage internally as well as externally when it comes to the economic component of the business? And applying cost theories to reduce the cost in the business. So because making profit on one hand, the other hand is reducing the cost. So when you reduce the cost, it is as much as good that your effort can be minimized in making profit. So the challenges are very wide. So you try to reduce the cost as much as possible applying cost theories. That's how the course outcome 3 is applied. And the fourth course outcome is handling micro and macro environment of business. Micro environment is how do you make the marketing mix, as I told you in the marketing management, the product, price, promotion, place, distribution, all that, handling resources, raw material, inventory and labor, overhead. How do we manage fixed cost and variable cost, all that micro level, how do you do it? Similarly, on the other hand, macro level, how do you invest? Investment can be raised and portfolio from different investment resources can be mobilized. And how do we manage? How do we handle these two situations in the existing firm and the market and the government? How do we play all these three things put together in a smooth way? And the fifth course outcome is building confidence to meet challenges in the workplace. See, you have to import and gain economic challenges in a better way, and you have to establish confidence among the market player when it comes to different stakeholders, and that's how how you exercise. So today we call it as behavioral economics. Economics have come in a different phase. We call it as behavioral economics. So how the economics is combined with behavior of the business competition and behavior of the consumers. Now we come to the third component of our teaching, which is syllabus. So each one of the unit, what are the subtopics, how do we deal with all these topics, and that we will see in the subsequent part. So the first unit is about the scope and methods of managerial economics, which is dealing with the theory of firm and how do we do business in the marketplace. a theory of firm, the objectives of theories of firm is basically economics is aiming at profit maximization. So, profit maximization is from the minimum level, how do you enhance the profit over the years by handling different component of the business. So, how do we reduce the cost, how do you increase the price, how do you mobilize the sales revenue, and how do we finally quantum profit, how do we make a quantum of profit. So, profit maximization, or we can say profit optimization, is the first objective of the firm. The second objective of the firm is how do we make production function. So, given various factors of production, what is the combinations in which, or factors in which we can combine all the different resources, man, material, machine, how do we combine all these resources to make output. So, from that perspective, on one hand you have output, on the other hand you have resources. How do we balance these two in order to make effective output, effective quantity of output. And the third objective is how do we minimize the cost, which cost has to be minimized, whether you minimize the fixed cost or variable cost, or direct cost or indirect cost, or overhead cost, or how do we manage all these costs from the perspective of minimization. You have to minimize the cost as much as possible, or you have to be the best bargainer in order to mobilize various resources at a minimal cost. And the final objective is to enhance revenue, because the profit and the revenue are combined in a direct proportion. As much as you raise the revenue, there is every possibility that you can raise the profit. So, how do we manage this profit, revenue, cost and production function when we mobilize this a firm? Herein we apply all the basic principles as I told you in the learning objective, how the incremental principle will apply, because the firm, when you start as an entrepreneur, you go to the next level, you establish a limited company, and then you maybe in the small scale level, and then you make and the medium sector, and then you make a corporate sector. So, when you move from entrepreneur, small scale, medium scale and large scale and the big corporate or public enterprise, when you move on this ladder, every places you have to increment your factors of production. So, when you increment the factors of production, you should take care all the other elements or the principles component of the business. So, similarly you apply opportunity cost, whether running in the small scale level is wise enough, or you can move in the medium scale so that your risk can be minimized. Or I would say the other opportunity is the second principle, and third principle will maybe time span of the production. When we say time period, it's large scale and small scale. When you operate small scale, the risk and the uncertainty is under control, and your profit is regulated, revenue is under your control. When you move from small scale to large scale, what happens? When the operation, the machine size in the small scale, suppose if you are having size 1, multiplication of same sizes, 5 units you are establishing, say for in a thermal plant like NLC India Limited, the same plant 5 number of units can be established in a single entity, or 7 number of units can be established in a single entity. So, unit 1 there can be 5 units, thermal unit 2 there can be 7 units. So, numbers can be of multiplication, replication of the same size, that is small scale. When it is large scale, the size is slightly you increase, the machine, the size, the capacity of the unit of production of electricity may be enhanced. Accordingly, the size of the thermal plant also will be enhanced. So, from that perspective, the machinery can also be in different size. So, when you operate in small size, running in full capacity, it is under control. When you go into the large scale, running in full capacity, 100% capacity may be a difficult thing. So how, while establishing the large scale operation, you must ensure that the orders are in pipeline, so that you do not have a risk and uncertainty in the production. Otherwise, the product will lie in the store. So that way, time period component also be dealt in the first unit, and likewise you also deal with the discount principle, as I told you in the beginning. Also we deal with risk and uncertainty in the first unit. These are the scope and methods of managerial economics. I would say there are three things in this introductory unit. One is individual firm, and the second one is market, and third one is government. So how these three things are being put together, or you can say single unit or single firm, market, industry, and then government. So all these four components could also be taken care in the first unit. In the second unit, it's about demand analysis and forecasting. So when we say demand analysis and forecasting, so demand as a function, as I told you, customer needs, wants, and demand. So demand is a willingness to pay for a given product at a given price. So this is being mixed in terms of pricing and quantity demanded or quantity consumed. So when you increase the price, consumer tend to reduce their consumption. When you reduce the price, automatically the quantity consumption will increase. So the behavior of demand determinants, factors of demand, elasticity of demand, and how all these things can be put together to forecast future demand, future quantity consumption. That's being dealt in the demand analysis and demand forecasting. In elasticity of demand, we say income elasticity, price elasticity, and advertising elasticity, sales promotion. All these are put together. We can deal with by increasing the investment in advertising. Naturally, the awareness among the consumer increases, and therefore quantity consumption could also be increased. So the change in advertisement expenditure, how much it can enhance the change in revenue or quantity consumption. So that way, as the income increases, probably the disposable income on hand would be more, and therefore they will spend more. So the relationship between income and quantity consumption could also be studied. Similarly, price, income, advertisement, all that can be studied as elasticity of demand. How all these things are related in deciding the demand for the product in the market. That is being dealt in, especially when we say customer's requirement, we call it as value, cost benefit analysis. How much cost is able to allocate for the purchase, and similarly how much benefit he will get it from the product. So that component we call it as value. So what is the value proposition of a customer while buying a product, and similarly that will have an impact on demand, and it will also have an impact on profit. So that is a beautiful exercise or simulation we can learn from the Harvard Business School education, maybe in the subsequent lessons. The unit 3 takes care of cost analysis and factors of production. What are the different types of cost? When we say cost, it's purely the fixed cost and the variable cost and the total cost. So fixed cost will be constant, the overhead cost and the investment on machinery, there will be a horizontal line, whereas the variable cost will be climbing up, and therefore when you add variable cost and fixed cost put together, it will again climb up. So the cost aspect will be dealt in the whole of the lesson as average cost or average total cost. So what is the formula for average total cost? Average total cost is total cost of production divided by quantity of unit produced. Total cost divided by quantity of units produced will give you average cost per unit. how much cost is incurred. So that way the whole lesson will be dealt in the marginal cost and marginal revenue and how that is behaving, average cost, total cost, marginal cost, how they behave. And you can see three things which I have displayed in the slide. One is about the formula for average total cost, and the other one is how the behavior of total cost curve behaves, and the other one is how the profit and total cost curve behave, how the marginal cost will behave and how the average cost will behave, and average fixed cost, average variable cost, average total cost put together, how they behave, where they intersect, and that probably will give you the optimum or equilibrium point wherein the maximum profit can be earned, and for which you have a very beautiful tutorial which is dealing with the when the market demand for a product is prevailing, how do we, when you increase the demand, when it is increasing the demand, what happens to the company, and simultaneously what happens to the market. Similarly, when the suppliers supply the product, when there is an increase in supply of product, what happens? When there is a decrease in supply of product, what happens? What happens to the company? What happens to the market? Likewise, what happens to this cost aspect? So all these three things will be beautifully related, connected and synced, and therefore we can learn all these three things: demand, supply and cost. Unit 4 takes care of market structure. Market structure, we simply call it as monopoly, oligopoly, monopolistic competition and perfect competition. When we say monopoly, it's about metro water, the water supplied by the government or municipality in the hands of municipality, and therefore they supply as a single entity or single business provider. Similarly, we have oligopoly, where oil, petroleum, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries means all the Gulf countries wherein you have a resource of petrol come together and they act as a cartel unit, and they decide about how much unit should be produced and how much price should be stabilized in the market. From that perspective, the limited number of players, probably number 7 number of market players will be deciding on the price and product supplied in the market. So that way oligopoly also is an important market structure. And then you have monopolistic competition, where the product is unique in nature and there will be no similarity by the other competitor, and you have a pure uniqueness in the market, and therefore you have your own pricing pattern and there will be no similarity, and you have your own customer base. You decide on the price, and you need not look for the competitor. In other words, I would say there is no competition for monopolistic. You are unique by yourself. Your product is a specialized product and customer come to you for that particular product. And you have pure competition, where all our groceries, rice, wheat, fruits, vegetables, all that, it's a perfect competition. You cannot decide the price, the market decides the price. Supplier cannot fix the price, it is the market. When all the suppliers bring the product to the market, and the market decides the price depending upon the demand by the customers. So from that perspective, market structure and pricing. So monopoly, they can fix the price because the product is available and provided only by that supplier. Whereas oligopoly, there will be 7 or more number of players, or in other words limited number of marketeers providing the product, and therefore they join together and they try to stabilize the price and quantity produced. From the perspective of production and pricing, the oligopoly structure is more important. Similarly, you have monopolistic competition, wherein the product is unique and you are the only person, but there may be a closer product, but uniqueness of your flavor, your the size, your ingredients, and the place where you serve the product and the form in which you serve the product, there will be a uniqueness, and therefore you are monopolistic in nature, and you have pure competition where all the marketeers, the buy sellers, they have to come to the market, and the market will decide the price and consumer will decide the price. That's being dealt in unit 4. And then unit 5 takes care of profit management. We say break even point, BEP. So how do we manage the profit? So initially there is a possibility that you may tend to make losses, but you cannot carry on the business all along. So you have to look upon your total revenue, and the cost has to be minimized and your revenue has to be enhanced, and therefore the sales and revenue enhances, you go into the profit. You make profit as much possible in the market depending upon the cost of the resources or raw materials that you spend it on the product manufactured. So likewise you can deal with the 6th unit, which is about the macroeconomics as such. I would say it's macroeconomics, and it deals with national income, gross domestic product, and business cycle, and recent trends in the macroeconomics. What happens in the macroeconomics due to the inflation and deflation, and the management of money, how do we do it, and how the central bank, Reserve Bank of India, is involved in stabilizing the economy. How do they maintain the cash reserves in the banks, and all that? How do they support the business people in terms of tax levies? How do they provide the GST, and all that is being dealt in the unit number 6, which is national income and business cycle. And business cycle, as you know, there will be peak and there will be trough, and there will be recovery and there will be an expansion. So it's a up and down, and there will be again a regain. So it will be a cyclical pattern, cycle and recycle pattern. Business cycle would follow a cycle and recycle pattern, and it's of what are the strategies from the perspective of the government and from the perspective of the businessman, how the economy is to be stabilized from the firm perspective, business firm perspective as a microeconomics, as well as macroeconomics, how do they deal with the national and international and global perspective, how do they compete, how much foreign reserves they keep. All that is being dealt in unit number 6. And the lessons that follow, self-learning material is of very use to you, and you can refer to our study material, which is having the lessons. You can read or you can refer from the slide. The first 12 lessons are nature and scope of managerial economics, principles and application of managerial economics, objective of the firms, application of managerial economics in business decision. These are the 4 lessons which is forming part of the first unit. And you have unit 2, where demand analysis and forecasting is done. The 5th unit is about demand theory, 6th is about elasticity of demand, 7th is demand forecasting, and 8th is application of elasticity of demand in decision making. And you also have unit 3, cost analysis and production. The unit 3 comprises of lessons 9 to 12. 9th lesson is about cost concept, 10th is about accounting, cost accounting, and 11th is about production economics, and 12th is about returns to scale. And you have 13th lesson, 14, 15, 16 are forming part of the 4th unit, which is market structure, perfect competition, monopoly, monopolistic competition and oligopoly, pricing policies and practices, which we have dealt in our simulation game, which is very interesting. You can follow it. And then 17, 18, 19, you have it for unit number 5, profit policy and practice, social responsibility of business. 19 is profit planning and forecasting. And you have unit 6, which is comprising of 5 lessons, which is 20th lesson is managerial issues of break-even analysis. 21st lesson is about national product, income and expenditure. 22nd lesson is approaches to measure national income. Business cycle is our 23rd lesson. 24th lesson is about business forecasting, how the business trend is going to prevail in the market. So these are a glimpse of the lessons and the objectives that we have discussed so far. So we look forward to the next presentation on Unit 1 with 4 lessons. So probably the scope and nature of managerial economics and how do we deal with the principles of managerial economics or basic principles of managerial economics. Looking forward to the next presentation. I welcome all of you for the next presentation. Keep subscribing our eMMC channel of Annamalai University, and also visit the AUDDE 100 Telegram channel, which we are exclusively maintaining for our management wing, and also give your feedback to prof_cells in Telegram, as well to my email selvarasu@gmail.com. Thank you very much. Thank you.